Justice Barrett?
General, what is the daylight between the major questions doctrine and the non-delegation doctrine? So at the beginning of your argument, you talked about how the major questions doctrine can be understood as, inspired by the separation of powers, and you talked about avoidance and non-delegation. So if the idea is that Congress shouldn't delegate major questions to an agency, is there any daylight between them?
I think certainly that is a broad view of the non-delegation doctrine. It's not necessary for the court to go that far to say whether Congress could delegate these questions, because here it's clear Congress didn't. So I think the daylight between the two is really this question of, has Congress purported to delegate? The major questions clear statement canon is getting at that question. What did Congress think it was doing? What did Congress actually do with the words it put in the statute? And then it would be a separate question to say, if Congress clearly said, EPA, you may go forward and exercise this transformative power, that might be a separate non-delegation question.
Well, when you say, let me just push you a little bit on what you mean by clear statement. Are you using the phrase clear statement to mean a linguistic canon? In other words, we would expect Congress to use a clear statement because it would be common sense for one to say something like this very clearly and precisely?
It would be common sense for Congress to speak clearly, because this is the sort of issue that we assume Congress would handle itself. And so if Congress is not going to handle this sort of major policymaking question, at minimum, it would clearly direct it to the agency.
So when you say clear statement canon or clear statement rule, you're using that synonymously with like a linguistic canon?
It is similar in that sense. If what you mean by linguistics is that it is text-based, that is true. We're not asking the court to change the text that's in the statute. It's a question about what is the text we would expect Congress to have put there. So it's in this particular class of cases, Congress's silence is unambiguous that it did not give that power to the agency.
How does this work?